Hi, welcome back. This is the Knitweekend YouTube channel, or if this is your first time watching, welcome. Thanks for joining me. I'm Haley, and this is my space where I basically nerd out about all things fiber and knitting. This year, season 2 of the podcast, we are taking a bit more of a slow, intentional approach and really working on not only the product but also the process of the knit. So if that's something that you're interested in, grab your knitting and let's get into this WIP update. Okay, you came back for what is this, the February WIP update video. This is going to have the traditional podcast format style. I'll share my finished objects with you, my WIPs, and a little bit of my beginner spinning experience more toward the end of the episode. But first, I want to start with the make-along that I am hosting for the better part of 2024. We are hosting the Lonely Skeins project over on Instagram, also via email. This is basically just an opportunity for us to really dive into those single leftover or souvenir skeins, a skein or two, you could use a couple, and be able to get those out of our stash this year. So you can check out a lot of the projects on Instagram using the hashtag Lonely Skeins Project. One update there, I have learned that I cannot see all the projects that you're posting, so make sure to tag me at Knitweekend in your posts so that I know that they are out there. I will then reshare them in my stories, comment, tell you what an awesome job you're doing, and also make sure that you are entered to win our to be determined prize. To be determined because I have an idea, I need to brew it a little bit, need to get it exactly right. And also this project or make along is going to run from, I guess now, but really a few weeks ago, until the end of September. So you have plenty of time to be knitting up those lonely skeins and posting or emailing me your finished object photos to enter to win the prize, which I will share closer to when we close out the project for the year. I'm also going to include at the end of this video some of the projects that I am seeing out there. So if you're antsy, I'll put a timestamp. You can go ahead and head on over, but make sure you come back. But for now, I do want to share with you one entry that I really thought was very cool. So this one came to me via email, and this is from Sarah. She has knitted up a pair of Thrummed mittens. This is something that I just only recently learned about, the tradition of Thrummed mittens. It's going to be hard for me to say. And basically, you are using roving in the mittens to make them extra warm and wind resistant. I think it's very cool. You can find all types of articles and YouTube videos out there, so just Google that or look it up on the YouTube search. But what's neat about what Sarah is doing is that she is using leftover like super bulky, I think, roving yarn for her thrums that she's just cut into pieces, and I think that is brilliant. So again, on Instagram, hashtag Lonely Skeins Project, and tag me at Knitweekend or email them over to me, and my email is down in the description. So while we are on the topic of Lonely Skeins, I'm going to show you the bin. Actually, there are two bins, but I'm only going to show you one bin, the largest one. And we're going to choose the next yarn for my next Lonely Skein cast on. My plan is to just kind of have a Lonely Skein project on the needles at all times. So, all right. This is the bin, the Lonely Skein bin. We've got the Mohair remnants, We've got Frogged Project, and then all the lonely skeins in the world. Okay, let's choose something. Okay, you know what? Here's one. I have 2 of these. 2. Okay, this is, hold on, let me reorganize. All right, this is gonna be my next Lonely Skeins cast on. This is Delana yarn. This is 100% Spanish Merino, and this is worsted weight, looks like, yep, about 18 stitches. Recommended needle, this is in Spanish, so I'm gonna go with 5mm, and looks like it is a single ply. So I purchased this from Montricot, from Lucinda at Montricot, gosh, I don't know, over a year ago probably, with the intention of swatching up the Snow Crocus sweater from Midori Hiroshi, and never did it. All right, so we have 2 of these, which says to me, since it's worsted weight, it's probably not going to be a scarf. It's easily soft enough that I could tolerate this on my forehead. So I've kind of envisioned this possibly becoming the Gro Hat from Lerica from Fiber Tales. Oh gosh, what's the name of that beret? I don't know, but it's Kiami Bergen. It's a beret that she did. I'm going to put up photos of both of these as I'm talking so you can see. So I think this yarn would be great for either one of those. If you have an opinion or you've knit either one of these, I'm honestly leaning toward the beret only because I have not seen anybody knit that. So that might be a fun adventure. But I love the Gro Hat too. So if you have an opinion, leave it in the comment down below. Let me know what you think. Have you knit either of those, or have you worked with this yarn, and do you have any tips that I should be mindful of? I do think this is, by the way, a woolen spun merino yarn. So the gauge is probably pretty flexible on it, but 2 skeins says to me a hat or beret. And WIPs, I want to kind of give a couple shout outs to other folks in the knitting community who are doing cool things that I want to support and share with you about. I mentioned this author in a couple other episodes, but Hannah Thiessen has her seasonal knitting books back in print. I was very excited for this, seasonal slow knitting, sorry. This has been out of print for a little while now, and I saw her post on Instagram that they were back in print, and I instantly grabbed one. Hannah is such an asset to the knitting community, so I highly encourage you to support her. I'm a little biased. She is a local person here in the Nashville area. Oh, I forgot to mention that. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. So Music City, you get the guitars, you get the albums. This is my and my husband's shared hobby space. So this is what Nashville looks like behind the scenes of the music industry. Anyway, back to the knitting. Hannah has also just recently launched a fiber shed called the Greater Cumberland Fiber Shed, and that I mentioned in the last episode as well. So I'm going to link Hannah and the fiber shed in the description below because I think it's just a really great thing to support. So yay, Hannah. Look forward to reviewing and knitting through this book. Another thing that I wanted to share with you is a podcast that I recently stumbled upon. Now, they have far more subscribers than I do, so you probably already know or are familiar with Jackie and Carmen from Knitting a Good Yarn. I just found them this week, and I have to say that I have been binging their backlog of episodes. Yeah, they're 3-hour episodes, so that's no small feat. But I have just really enjoyed, first of all, their friendship. They're knitting besties from Canada, and it's really fun to feel like I am just there with them knitting along. And they are super intentional about their fit and their choices and their patterns, which I love. You know that that's one of my major focus for the year. And also what's fun is they are completely different body shapes. So they like to kind of trade their sweaters back and forth, and you can see what the same sweater would look like on each of them, and how that fit is different. And it's just really fun. So I also feel like these are people that I want to be friends with in real life, but I'm not going to fangirl that hard about them right now. So anyway, the Knitting a Good Yarn podcast, if you've not watched that before, then definitely go check that out. As a follow-up to the yarn substitutions video that I put out, which I think you would have seen last weekend if you watched it, I wanted to share with you a comment with a great tool that I did not mention that I probably should have. And that came from Chloe, and Chloe reminded me about how you can really use Ravelry in a really fabulous way to figure out yarn substitutions and what it's going to look like. And that is because you can go check out the other projects that have been knit in that yarn. So when you pull up a project or a pattern on Ravelry, you have the option to see yarn ideas and also projects made by other knitters. And on the yarn ideas, if you scroll through and you find a yarn that you're interested in using, you can click to see the projects that other knitters have created in that yarn. So that gives you a really good visualization of how that's going to knit up for you. And that was a fabulous reminder. I do that, and that escaped my brain. The other thing that Ravelry does allow you to do that I have shared previously is to search by your gauge. So if you are starting with the yarn and stash, and you've done your gauge, you've done a calibration swatch, you know what needle you want to work on, you've done a gauge swatch, you know what your stitch gauge is, then you can actually search based on your gauge as well as your yarn weight. So I am so grateful that you all are up for kind of these topics, diving deeper into knitting and the process of knitting and fiber and all that good stuff. It sounds like a lot of you are really kind of looking for that additional kind of exploration, and I'm really grateful for that. Amanda had an idea. I mentioned one of the things that I thought I would film, and I think this is going to be the next kind of special episode, if we want to call it that, or deeper dive, is about recreating commercial knitwear. So I have selected, I think, 4 patterns that I would like to knit and have in my wardrobe. And one of the things that Amanda said was that she would be interested in also for me to compare the costs of buying it versus making it. And that's a little scary because I almost always feel like making it is like just as expensive, if not more so. And especially if you valued your time in that. But we won't even get into the valuing of the time. But anyway, so I'm so glad that you guys are up for that, and more to come on that. If there's something that you would like me to kind of dive deeper into, then please feel free to leave that in a comment below. As I said, this is your space and your community and your time too. Also read each other's comments, engage with each other, and you'll find a lot of great gems in the comments. Before we get into finished objects and WIPs, I just realized I didn't tell you what I was wearing. I am wearing the Ample Slipover. This is a pattern by Wiese Knit, and I knit it in the intended yarn, which is Filcolana, Indecia, and Alva held together. So it is 100% alpaca. I knit this last year just before our trip to Norway because I wanted just something that was easy to layer. Oh, look who's coming to visit. I wanted something that was easy to layer and would keep my neck warm under coats and fit nicely under coats. So anyway, so this is the ample slipover. For me, the best detail is this shoulder line here, which I love. And then also, I don't know if you can tell when I have it on, but the armhole is slanted. So I thought those were two really interesting details that just kind of took a very basic slipover to the next level. I did knit mine a size larger than the recommended ease, and that is just because I knew that I was going to layer this under other shirts and wanted plenty of room to do that, and just kind of wanted altogether a more relaxed vibe. So I don't know. This is awkward. Nope, we're not doing that. Okay. The camera's too close. Yeah, let's move on now to finished objects. I have two. They are both on the smaller side today. Being slow and intentional about my bigger WIPs. But one of these you have seen before as a WIP in the last, in the January WIP update video, and one of them you have not seen, which is by far the silliest knit I have ever made. Oh, just realized I've never taken all the stitch markers out of this. Hold on. I need to make it more presentable for you so that I don't have a little bling hanging off. Did I get them all? Okay. So my first finished object is the Bisbis Beret. This is by Sari Nordlund. I have knit this in leftover skeins. So this is my first Lonely Skeins project entry, though I don't think that I am eligible for the prize because then it would just be a gift for myself. Anyway, so this is my first entry, and this is something that I've wanted to knit for a long time. If you've been with me for a while, you will know that I talked about this, gosh, I think back in April maybe, when we had been to Copenhagen. I went to Knitting for Olive. My husband helped me select the Clover green. I wanted a color that wasn't my usual. He helped me select Clover green. I knit a little Lalu shawl, also by Sari Nordlund, out of this, which I should have brought in here to show you, but I didn't. And then I had leftovers, and I had in my brain that it needed a beret to go with it. I have also since then knit my poppy tee out of the same yarn. So, okay. What reignited this was Leah of Stitchcraft. She shared a beret on her podcast. It looks so cute. I was like, okay, that's it. Lonely Skeins project. I am casting on that beret. It is knit from the top of the I-cord down. I have actually knit this, I guess, really twice because I didn't trust the pattern. I thought I knew better, and I knitted a bit too long on the crown of the pattern before I started the decreases. That was a mistake. I should have trusted the pattern. So I ended up with the most ridiculous looking beret I have ever seen in my entire life. It was like such a caricature of a beret. So let's try this on. I still, as I mentioned in the last episode, am not sure like how to wear a beret. I've never worn a beret in my life. So if you have any beret styling tips, please include them down below. But for now, I don't know, does it do this? How does it do? No, I don't know. Okay, so that's the beret. Should I turn around so you can see the back? How does it look? It still feels really ridiculous. I really don't know how to wear this, how to use it. I also kind of wonder, does it do like a side thing? Is that a thing that a beret does? I'm not sure. It's okay. I'll figure it out in time for spring in order to wear this. But I think it's pretty cute. Not like that. It's maybe not cute like that. Okay. We'll come back to the beret. We'll figure that out. But for now, that is my first finished object. Did I say it was knit in Knitting for Olive, Merino, and Soft Silk Mohair, held double, both in the color of Clover. Okay, you don't put a beanie or hat finished object on this early in the episode, or you end up with crazy hair for the next 30 minutes. All right, so that was one small finished object, and The next one is by far the silliest knit that I have ever made. Made this for my co-host, Sweet Georgia Brown, who is perched over here just off camera. She's woken up from her nap and maybe she doesn't feel quite camera ready yet. I'm not sure. I'm sure she'll show up at some point. This is a very practical knit on some level. We had an ice and snow event here in Nashville that landed me working from home for a few days. And during that time, I could not get Georgie off my lap, off my computer. She was just craving the warmth and it was like she was glued to me. So I thought, wait a minute, everybody's always talking about hot water bottles. What if I got Georgie a hot water bottle? And then I need to knit her, of course, a cover for it. So this is Georgie's hot water bottle cover that I have knit her. I mean, you guys, the cuteness factor on this is insane. Hold on, let me put it up to the camera so you can see the face a bit better. Are you getting it? Can you see it? Oh. If that doesn't show, then maybe I will do a photo, but I think you really get the point. So this is actually a mashup of two free Ravelry patterns. Oh, Cascade 220 and Holst Super Soft from My Tones. Georgie, we're filming. Hey, no ma'am. Okay, so before I get into the patterns, after we had that little interlude from your co-host making some off-screen noise, I did forget to mention that this pattern also inspired by another podcaster, Johanna, who is a German knitter and podcaster. She knit the most adorable, whimsical sheep hot water bottle cover for a coworker. And I just thought, you know what? If you're gonna knit something whimsical, then it might as well be something like this, right? This is a mashup between two free Ravelry patterns. One is the aptly named hot water bottle cover by Emily Bolduan, I don't know. But you can find it under hot water bottle cover, and it is a worsted weight pattern. The next is the kitty ankle socks. Obviously, I did not use the gauge of the ankle socks, but I took the cat motif and kind of how to do it from that pattern. Also a free Ravelry pattern. So I did knit this flat and seam it, actually. There's a lot of seaming in this episode, a lot of seaming. And I will kind of share some more thoughts with you on seaming later. But for now, you could knit this in the round. I didn't. I just needed, I don't know why. I just wanted to seam it. So I basically knit a little bit less than halfway in my first color, and then all of these details are duplicate stitch. So the ears, I suppose you could do them in Intarsia, but frankly, for this little bit, the duplicate stitch was just fine. I think it looks super cute. And then the nose and the eyes were duplicate stitch as well. The whiskers, then you just kind of made it up and didn't pay attention to any pattern and just kind of ran them. So they're a little lopsided, but I think that just gives a little character, right? And then I chose to go with the 2x2 band up top. I did knit this piece in the round. So I knit this flat, seamed it all together, and then knit the 2x2 in the round. I incorporated a little purl bump edge there as well. Let's see. Not sure if you can see that. A couple of things on this, and again, I'll get more into the seaming later, but This is whole super soft held double. It wasn't so bad knitting at the larger gauge, but those of you who enjoy knitting whole super soft double on a smaller gauge, I think you may have lost your ever-loving minds. This was not fun to knit the whole super soft double on 3.5 millimeter needles. I don't know that I would choose to do that again. It was difficult enough to do it on this short and small of a circumference. I cannot imagine what that would be like on an entire waist, you know, like bottom hem of a sweater. So I know a lot of people use this yarn held together with itself, but I'm just not sure that that's something that I would want to do for any length of time on a project. It really kind of hurt my hands. So, oh, and then the hot water bottle inside, I just ordered off of Amazon. Little secret though, I have not woven any ends in, except for the one on the top. The rest are just kind of stuck down in there. Nobody will ever know, right? The outcome on this, Georgie, not a fan of waterbeds, is what I have discovered. So she still is a proud resident of my lap and also the computer keyboard. And I think this is gonna wind up probably being a gift knit. I can think of a couple folks in the family who would enjoy something like this and just get the biggest kick out of it. So that is finished object number 2, underappreciated by its recipient. On to WIPs. Slow, intentional, getting it right. That is the theme of this year for me, and you've said that you're on board for that theme, so we're gonna put it to the test right now because you have seen both of these WIPs more than once. Let me grab the basket. Okay, before we get into my treatise, you guys, she's doing weird things today. Anyway, before we get into my treatise on seaming, I will show you my Artus shawl. I'm quite confident that you are aware of this pattern because it has basically taken the January knitting scene by storm. I think it's all over Instagram, it's all over YouTube, and this is a gorgeous pattern by Natasha Hornby of Moonstruck Knits. It is knit in, I am knitting mine in Lichen and Lace, Rustic Heather Sport, which is the recommended yarn for the pattern. If you want more details about this yarn, go back to my January WIP update. I shared a lot more about it in that episode and what I like about it, what I think about it. We'll just keep it short here and say that I'm really enjoying knitting with this yarn. So last time you saw this, I had completed the textured section and hastily knit the last row of the stranded colorwork band so that I could break those yarns and show it to you. And since then, I have completed a chart and a half on the mosaic section, which I will say surprised me. I set a goal for myself to complete the first chart, and then I exceeded it by a whole other half chart. That is because this mosaic section honestly has been so comforting during a stressful few weeks. My other WIP, as you already know or you're going to see, is cables, and so something about just the rhythmic back and forth of this mosaic band just was very soothing to my brain, and I could not put this down. In fact, I would have made more progress on it, but I have come to second guess my next color choice, which should be introduced in the next row. The color that I had planned to do was this sky, which is featured in the original sample that Natasha Hornby knit. But in really thinking through my desire for a cohesive wardrobe and thinking through what I wear and am likely to wear, what I want to knit and what I have knit, I don't know that this is the right color choice for me. I think it would be gorgeous, but I don't know that it's the right color choice for me. So I have done a last minute pivot and ordered a different color of this yarn. It's not arrived yet, otherwise I would show it to you. And then I'm going to probably just knit up a little mini swatch of both options and see what I think. So for right now, this is on pause, sadly, because I really would love to be making more progress on it. But I'm just gonna have to, again, take it slow and get it right. I think you're probably gonna hear me say that a lot this episode and probably this year. It's also really time to put this on a larger cord. I had intended to put this on some of the try-on cords before the episode just so that I could show you how large it is at this point, but I forgot, so we're just rolling with it. Next WIP is my must-have cardigan. This is a very long time WIP at this point. It was cast on, I think, like the 1st of December, and I have been working through it slowly but surely. You have seen it every part of the way. So, quick recap. All over cable cardigan, free pattern from Ravelry. I am knitting it in Stonehenge Fiber Mill Shepherd's Wool, which is a worsted weight merino top semi-worsted spun yarn. So if you want to hear about the modifications that I made to, or if you want to hear about how I work my cable charts, go back to my December WIP update, and there's information there about how I'm managing the cables in this. If you want to hear about the modifications that I made to the body and also to the sleeves, go back to my January WIP update. All of that information is there for you because I have made several modifications to the sleeves. Now we have moved on to the seaming portion of the project. So I've learned a lot. I've gotten some tools that have made it a lot easier, which I will show to you in just a second. But first, let's talk through the fit of this. Let's see if I can try it on over. Hopefully this will work. It won't be exact, but you'll be able to see. Okay, so all of my lovely ornaments here. This is, let me see if I can, okay, hold on. I'm gonna have to move the camera back. We're probably not gonna end up in the same place that we started, but it's the only way that I'll be able to show you. Okay, are you getting this at all? So sleeve here, and then the length is here. Are we back where we started? No, we are not. That's a little bit better. Okay, so I definitely have ended up with a little bit of a wider sleeve than what I intended. I wanted it to be wider than the pattern and have more ease than the pattern sample because I thought everybody's sleeves look so tight and I want to be able to layer this over like a button down or a linen shirt or something like that. So I had originally intended for the sleeve to be more bracelet length, but once it blocked out, it actually blocked longer than I expected that it would. So it is definitely a full length sleeve now, which is fine. I decided to go with a folded cuff. So I did knit the cuff quite long, and then I'm just folding it over, which I think gives it a fun, casual kind of vibe. Still have to obviously put the button band in. From previous experience, I kind of expect that I will lose a little bit of length when I put the button band in. So I do think I am going to go in and add about a 1/2 inch more on the bottom hem, which isn't a big deal. I just need to pick out the bind off and add about another 1/2 inch. And I'll have to just seam the bottom again, which is totally fine. But I would say my satisfaction with this one so far, around 85%. Definitely not 100% satisfied with what was in my head versus what I ended up with. I think I would have been better off maybe knitting the size 2 body than the size 1 to give a little more positive ease. But we aren't through yet. So I think overall, even if it's not exactly what I had envisioned in my head, because I'm not a designer, so it's hard to realize that sort of thing, I still think I'm going to end up with a really lovely classic cable cardigan. So, but I think adding that extra length is going to really balance out the extra ease in the sleeves, maybe a bit better. So, let's talk about seaming. Okay, I have seamed before. Sorry, I'm completely tangled in the yarn now. I have seamed before, and there's a reason why I wanted to embrace seaming for this cardigan, and that's because I really wanted to knit something that was going to last, that was going to hold its shape, and also I love that it can be a bit more portable, so I can carry it around with me. As far as the holding its shape, lots of times over with wear and just over time, the weight of a cardigan is going to really stretch, and it's going to become just a completely different shape than what it started in. And the seams really help to reinforce that, especially with a cable cardigan, because there is so much more yarn used in cables. That seam can really be a great support for the garment. So that's why I decided to embrace the seaming on this one. Now I have seamed stockinette before. I have even seamed cast on edges with cable work before. I have never seamed seed stitch, and I have never seamed a super dark yarn in the winter when lighting is a challenge. So was this the easiest thing to seam? No, but I have acquired some tools that made it a bit more easy, or made it a bit easier. So let me start with the fact that this is a set-in shoulder, and definitely my first time working a set-in shoulder. I've learned that I don't mind seaming like the straight edge of a body, and I even don't mind seaming the sleeve. But seaming the set-in shoulder, that's not something that I would care to do very often. So I think I would be more inclined to choose a cardigan going forward that has a seamed body, but that I can just pick up the sleeves and knit those in the round. Would have made this a bit easier. But I did watch Patty Lyon's set-in shoulder tutorial on loop just over and over again, and she recommended a tool that I found to be very useful, which I just realized I didn't grab the tool. So hang on, let me grab all the tools that I've used to accomplish this. Okay, so in Patty Lyon's video, she recommended to get a tailor's ham, which I, not being a seamstress, have never heard of before, but I did acquire one. And that is what this is. And so basically it just gives the seam of the shoulder, of the set-in shoulder, an object to form over, which makes it a bit easier to kind of envision the seams coming together and accomplish those. Also for me, I found that having this white background made it 100 times easier to see the, what do you call the things between the stitches? The bars made it a lot easier to see the bars on the stitches. So highly recommend, if you are going to seam a set-in shoulder, grab one of these. In fact, I ended up putting the project on hold for a whole week while I waited for that to arrive. Speaking of being able to see, if you do not already own a neck light, can I just recommend, please, that you pick one up? If you knit with dark yarn, or if you're doing something tedious, these are a huge lifesaver. So this one is one that we've had for a while. It was just purchased off of Amazon, and it's the Glowcuscent neck lamp. And then this one, actually, the timing could not have been more perfect. This is the Lumos and Lumos knitting light, and they reached out to see if I was interested in trying it. And it just so happened to be at the same time that I was waiting for my other tools to arrive. So either one of these options are great. This one is, I would say, we're going with, let's call it the Toyota of knitting lights. And this one is more like the Cadillac. There's a price difference. This one is a bit more expensive. They do offer coupon codes frequently, but it does have a few more bells and whistles. And if you are into a sleek design, it's quite nice as well. So knitting light is a must. The other thing that I have really gotten a lot of use out of on this project is a lap desk. I like to put a couple pillows in my lap and then put this on top. And then that just kind of gives me an easy flat surface to work from. It raises it up a little bit with the pillow under it so that I'm not kind of craning my neck down so much. Then also for areas where you can't really fit a knitting ham, even if you just have a white or light colored towel, or a different color, I guess if you were seaming something white, maybe you wouldn't want to use a white towel, but to just put in the background, like I stuck this down the sleeve so that I had a white surface to work from, because having that kind of contrasting surface to the stitches I found to be really, really helpful. And the last piece of advice that I would give you about undertaking a big seaming project, actually it's not the last piece of advice, but the last tool, your earbuds and a really chill playlist, because there are moments of frustration and tedium. So throw in the earbuds, make yourself a seaming playlist, and go for it. I would say that you don't want to undertake the seaming a whole project in one evening. I definitely kind of just chose one area to seam at a time, because you are still, even with the lap desk, you are still looking down quite a bit. So I found that I would just do it in short spurts. Going back to kind of the order in which you are meant to seam, I found out that I did that entirely wrong. So I got a little overeager, and I've kind of done this in, I've kind of done this sweater in sections. So first thing that I knit was the 2 front panels. I did those as a swatch. Then I knit the back panel. And then I did a early block on those. And while I was waiting for those to dry, I cast on the sleeve, my first sleeve, and knit that up. And then while I was waiting on the first sleeve to dry, I decided that I was going to go ahead and seam the sides and shoulders of the cardigan. Well, guys, that's not the right order. And if I had read the pattern all the way through, and caught on to the nuance, because I often go out of order in the pattern, that's not unusual for me, I would have known that you're not supposed to seam the body before you put in your set-in shoulder. So the order in which you are meant to seam when you are doing a set-in shoulder is you are meant to seam the shoulder, like the top of the shoulder. Then you are meant to seam the sleeve cap to the underarm, and then you are meant to seam the body and the sleeve. I guess you could probably do the sleeve or the body next. Either one would be fine. And yeah, I didn't do that. I seamed the body and then the shoulder. So I basically did it all backwards, which means I did have to pick out a couple inches of the body under the arm to be able to get the set-in shoulder on there. So just Just a note for anybody else who decides to undertake a set-in shoulder project, there's an order that you're supposed to do it, and that's not it. One of the other details that I did, because I knew I wanted to fold this cuff, I actually seamed it inside out for like 3/4 of the cuff, and then flipped it to the other side and started seaming. So you can kind of tell that here. I don't know if you can see, where if I have the cuff straight, the seam is visible on this side, but once I flip it, then the seam is invisible on the outside of the cuff now. So I intended to do that, and then I got ahead of myself and seamed it all on the right side and did rip that back and redo that seam, because I just decided it was one of those things that would have driven me nuts and I wanted to fix it. So I did that. Yeah, where are we now and what's left on this project? I am working on, sorry, I feel like I'm a little hobbit in a hole here with my projects all around me. Okay, I am working on sleeve number 2, knitting it exactly the same as sleeve number 1, cast on the provisional cast on for 63 stitches, which was the size 3 recommended cast on. I am knitting to the size 2, I've knit to the size 2 number of stitches, which is 79. And then I still have to complete the sleeve, which is about another pattern repeat that I have to do, and before I start decreasing for the shoulder. So I think I probably will have the sleeve done by the end of the week and ready to block, and then seam that set-in shoulder again, this time smarter and wiser, knowing the best way to do it. And then I have to put in the button band. Still contemplating how to make that a bit more modern. When I tried this on, I realized I actually do have room to knit maybe 1.5 to 2 inches of a button band horizontally. The other option is to put in a vertical button band. So I have not yet decided which direction that I'm going to go. If you have thoughts on that, please leave them in the comments below. I'm very interested to hear if you think this project will look better with a vertical or horizontal button band. Okay, so that's finished objects. That's WIPs. I think the only thing left is a little bit of a beginner spinning experience. I have had more than one revelation today alone about my spinning. I've gotten a little bogged down, but I think I understand why. And so rather than kind of act like I'm some expert, know that I am not good at this yet. It is a really uncomfortable feeling to be doing something and being like, I'm not good at this. I don't know that this is my thing. But I remember that feeling when I started knitting, and I know knitting is my thing now. So I'm going to carry on, try to learn as I go. I've been doing it just very organically so far. I've not watched really a whole bunch of tutorials. I really need to do that, but for right now, I was just trying to get the enjoyment out of it before I get into the technical aspects of it. Which actually, I'm kind of thinking that I'm probably going to put off the more technical aspects until the summer, when I'm just not wanting to spend time with wool projects on my lap. So anyway, a few things that I have come to learn about my spinning so far. The first is evidenced by my first hand spun skein. This is tease water that my friend Victoria kindly gifted to me to just get me going. This is a long staple, so often not recommended for beginner spinners, but it got me behind the wheel, so I'm very grateful for it. What I learned from this, and first of all, this has been skeined up, but it has not been washed. I know you're supposed to do that, but I kind of got just a little like, oh, I'm tired of it. What I have learned is that I am personally prone to underspinning and underplying. I definitely see a lot of that here. And I'm not 100% confident that this is going to be something that I can knit with. I feel like I'm kind of running the risk that it could break very easily when I'm knitting with it. Let me just make you a little more comfortable because I hear all of you out there. I'm not planning to knit this into any type of garment. I actually was inspired by, in her Skeins knitting podcast, I did a deep dive on her Instagram. Some would call it stalking. I would just call it looking at her body of work. And a very long time ago on her Instagram feed, she posted a wall hanging that she made. And I think that would be just a great use of the first skein of hand spun that I have. And so I am envisioning a very similar wall hanging that I will make for our summer cabin. So that's the plan for this. That means that I don't have to worry about the gauge. I don't have to really worry about anything being consistent. I can just knit it up and have fun with it. But yeah, definitely underplied and underspun. So the next thing that I have realized is that I'm overdoing it. This is not surprising about me and my personality, but I have spun my singles way too long. Like, I don't know what I was thinking. I should be really aiming for like a 25 gram, skein at this point. And I have been trying to spin 100 gram skeins and I have been getting bogged down. I also then, the major problem with that, other than getting bored and bogged down, is that you really don't know what you have until you've plied it. So here I have spun this really long single and then plied it and not been happy with what I'm seeing. And really, if I had just stuck with trying to get to a 25 gram skein, then I could have learned and not just had this really long skein that I don't know what to do with. So I think going forward, I'm going to spin smaller, shorter bobbins and get them plied more immediately. And then that will allow me to really see the difference and see some growth and also just keep myself entertained. And then the third thing that I have learned is that with plying and spinning, but with plying especially, consistency is super important. Obviously, right? So I have been spinning on the electric eel wheel, which Victoria kindly loaned to me. That is one that a lot of beginners choose when it's in stock because the price point is much lower. I did, however, invest, and you can see it behind me, in an Ashford E-Spinner 3. And I have to say, for the benefits that an E-Spinner offers a beginner spinner, the Ashford E-Spinner, I think, is more beneficial. The benefit of an E-Spinner is that you can have consistency that's not driven by a treadle, that's driven by your foot. You can put it on a speed and you can let it go. And then it takes one of the variables of spinning out. And so with the electric eel wheel, the on and off is controlled with the speed knob. So to turn it off, in order to reset your guides on your flyer, or if your yarn breaks or something like that, you're constantly adjusting that speed to turn it on and off. And the Ashford E-Spinner has an on-off button. So you can leave your speed where it is, you can leave your tension where it is, and you can just use the on-off button to make adjustments. So I think that getting over onto my Ashford E-Spinner is going to be really just a huge improvement overall. I'm not knocking the electric eel wheel. I think if you are a consistent person, you're not going to have that problem. But I'm a beginner and I'm not yet consistent. And so if I can remove just one or two variables from the equation, then that is going to be a really good thing for me to do. So yeah, those are 3 things that I've learned from my spinning. I will share more with you as I go, but for now we will just leave it at that. All right, if you've made it this far into the podcast, thanks. I appreciate you spending time with me and with Georgie. Please do all the podcasty things. Like, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends. And coming up next, we've got some Lonely Skein projects. I'll see you next time.